Hello my dear Java developer, how are you doing? Getting cold here in Holland, but that also means that ski season is nearby, so have you been studying? Have you been watching the videos and trying to do things by yourself? I'm gonna start this video with just one more thing about object orientation. That's gonna be a complement for our past video, but right after that we're gonna do a small project, a very small simple program that's going to cover most of the things that I taught you, and this is going to be the last video of our basic training. Right after that we are going to start working with web applications, but this is going to be a nice way to test if you got the knowledge from the past videos. So I don't want to keep you waiting too much. Let's go right to it. So we are back to IntelliJ here. One more thing that I want to tell you before we go into our full project is another concept of object orientation that I didn't talk much yet. There's something called encapsulation. It's one of the backbones of the object orientation programming. So let's call a class called user, for example. Let's say that this class has two different properties. So name, private string, password, username. So when you're encapsulating properties, what do? You create a class, you create all the properties that all these variables that this class is going to have it. You set them as private. Why? Because you don't want direct access to this. You want to get and to set this information via methods. So what do is you create some public method, public string get username, and what do you return on this? Username. So when someone instantiates your class and they call it user.getUsername, this variable is going to be returned. But right now it's empty because there is no way to set this. So what we need to do is public void set username, string username. So we have a method that receives the string as the username, and then usually it's a good practice to have this variable name exactly the same name as this. So what you do is this dot username equals username. When you use this, you are explicitly saying that you are using a variable on the class scope. So this dot username, it means use this one and not this one. So that's why this has this at the beginning and this doesn't. At the moment that you call this method, whatever you put inside here is going to be set to the variable. So we have a get username and a set username. This is encapsulation. Encapsulation is when you deny access directly to the variable. You don't want people doing user.username equals something. So you create methods to do that. And then we can do the same thing. Better, even better. So we created this manually, right? It's a hassle. Imagine that you have 10 variables here. Luckily for us, let me delete this, IntelliJ is smarter than us. So if you just right click, generate, you see getter, setter, or getter and setter. That's exactly what we want. So you select both of them, then you hit OK. You see, get username, set username, get password, set password. For some reason it creates on the top. I don't like it, so I just remove this and put it here. I'm going to create another class, Java class, main. Let's use that class. Create the main method. How can I instantiate that? You already know. User equals new user. So if I want to set the username, you will see that my user doesn't have username directly. This doesn't work. This doesn't compile because we denied the access directly to this. So what we need to do is to use the method that we just created. So set username Now it works. The same thing, my user dot set password 1 2 3. So now if you want to print that, you guessed, my user dot get username, my user dot get password. If we run this, Andre 1 2 3. This kind of class has many names. It can be called Pojo. Pojo stands for plain old Java object. This is also just called a bean, or a VO, that stands for a valued object. It has many names. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes they only call entities. I like to call it entities. But you just need to understand that when you hear that term, that means it's a class that represents an object that has encapsulated methods. That's a bean, that's a Pojo, that's a entity. Okay, first thing I want to do is I'm going to create my client class. Private string name, private int age. You already know. Generate getter and setter. Select okay. So you have the get name, get age, and set age. Let's create our main class and also a main method. Let's do this. I said that I want a collection of clients, correct? I'm gonna use a list of clients. Let's call it clients equals new array list. Import class. Then client equals new client. So the first thing we need to do is to ask what's the client name. Type client name. A little bit before here, remember how do we create a scanner to get the input for the user? Scanner equals new scanner system.in. That's how we do it. Then what I'm going to do is client dot set name scanner next line. So it's going to print for me to type the client's name, and it's going to wait. Once I type it here, it's going to set the client name as that. Another print, type client age, client dot set age scanner next int. And then after we have all those two properties set, we have to add to our list. So clients dot add client. I said that after the end you should print all of those clients, correct? But remember that I said that you should perform this as long as the user wants. So if the user wants to add 5 clients, this block needs to execute 5 times. How do we do that? We talked about loops. Do you remember? This is a perfect scenario for a loop. Let's create a variable here called add new client equals true. Then I'm gonna use a while. Remember while? So while add new client. So remember that while means that this block of code will execute as long as this condition is true. As I'm setting this variable to true, right at the start it will execute once. So I can get all this code and put it here. Perfect. Now let's add would you like to add a new user? Question mark. Now it's the catch. This variable should change based on the user input. So if he types true, this keeps going. If he types false, this should get out. So add new client equals scanner next to boolean. This will be true for the first time. It's going to execute all of that. And then after the program asks the user if they want to add one more, it's going to read. If it's true, this will keep in a loop. At the moment that he types false, this should get out of the loop. So before we run this, let's add the scanner and the client. Let's put everything in here, so we know the whole block is going to be executed. Type client name, John, age 25. True. I would like to add a new user. You see, it starts all over again. Mary, client age 30. Would like to add a new user. False. If I keep typing true, this will never end. This is going to be an endless loop. At the moment that I type false, it should get out of our loop. Yes, process finished. So remember that after we add all the clients to the list, we need to print them. So how can we print? We learned the for each method, remember? For each, and then client, clients. Remember, this is a way to make a loop. I'm going to show you another way, a different way to iterate. So clients is our list. If you just type for each, that's the easiest way possible. Client, then you type like an arrow, and then you open the brackets. So this is another way. Basically, you use your collection here, dot for each, and this is going to be your variable name. So every time it iterates here, every client will be marked as the variable client. So I'm going to type here. Client name is client dot get name, and then I'm going to print another one. Client age is plus client dot get age. And just so the user knows that everything is finished, let's type this is the end of the program. When you print something, you can use special characters. There's one special character that I'm going to show you. It is \n. What does it mean? This means that you're going to have an empty line before it starts. So instead of writing this phrase right in the next available line, is going to just jump. That makes it easier to read. So let's say that you have 1,000 clients and you want to print all of them. If you have a space in between, it makes it much easier. So let's run again and see how this works. Type client's name, John, age 25. True, I want to add a new one. Mary, age 30. Would like to add another one. As soon as I type false, what I expect is to iterate all that list, to show all the users that I just added, and finish the program with my message. Let's see. Client name is John, 25. Client name is Mary. You see, there is like a blank space. That's what the /n does here. Client name is Mary. Client age is 30, this is the end of the program, and process finished, and our class stopped. So this is a very basic program that kind of uses a little bit of everything I taught you in the past episodes. So you have your list, you're using booleans, you're using loops, you're using objects with encapsulated methods, you're using the scanner, and you are printing variables. Probably this is the last time in your life that you're going to use a scanner, unless you keep working with command line software. That's not very common nowadays. But at least you know, this is the easiest way for me to show how to store the user input without having something visual, like a web page or something. So this is basically the end of all this initial part. Our next video is already going to be about web. So the idea of this project was to show you what can you do with the knowledge that you have so far. So let me know, because your solution may be a little bit different from mine. Maybe it works the same, but maybe it's a little bit different. Maybe you didn't create an object, but you should, because that makes your code much more clear. So let me know how you did. Let me know if you managed, and if you did, congratulations. Well done. As I said at the beginning, this was our last video of the basic series. So from now on, we're going to start working with web development, and probably that's what you are going to do once you get your first job as a Java developer. You're going to web on web applications. That probably 98% of all the Java developers, that's what they do. So if you manage to do the project that we just talked about, you can go there, you can create a few more things, you can create validations, you can make it smarter by catching more exceptions and things like that. You can play around, but just be ready, because the next one is going to be web development, and that's where the fun begins. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.